Baseball has a bounce-back weekend, women's basketball season comes to an end, a Texas freshman goes to the NBA draft, and how busted is your bracket? We'll find out all that and more here tonight. This is College Press Box. Welcome back. This is College Press Box. I'm your host, Tyler King. Now, the women's basketball team was in the Sweet 16 this past weekend against Stanford. The end of the first half, the Longhorns led 36-29. Adrienne Caron-Goudreau led the Horns with 8 points at half. Now, the second half would be a different story. Stanford would outscore the Horns 48-30 in the second half. Texas season would come to an end in the Sweet 16 for the second time in 3 years. Now, Nick Walters, you join us tonight. What a way to finish the season. Not the way they wanted to, but hey, they made it. They made it good ways in the tournament.
Yeah, Friday's loss extinguishes any kind of hope any, women's basketball fan had of Texas making it as far as they did last year. And if any hope they had of any, having any better result than they did 2 of their last 3 years when they ended up losing in the Sweet 16. Yeah. But, I think they're looking back. There are 2 themes that I saw in hindsight that plagued this team. One being rebounds. Look, the last time they were beaten on the boards was versus Baylor on February 6th. So it comes to no surprise that when they were rebounded 35-41 on Friday night versus Stanford, they came away with the same result they had on the season opener, which was a loss versus Stanford.
Yeah, the post play has been a little bit of a problem lately. Shooting seemed to be a problem too in the second half. They were outshot 46-35% in the field. Now, going forward for next year, Texas does lose seniors forward Kelsey Lang and guard Breon Taylor, who was the Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, but they are bringing in the #1 high school forward and guard. What is to look forward for the Lady Horns this upcoming season for next year?
Well, their defensive stalwart, Breonna Taylor, is graduating, so you can expect for the defense to take a step back. But I think there will be an upgrade on the offensive side of the ball as they're retaining pieces and getting incoming new talent. You saw Brooke McCarty, who was just named honorable mention All-American. She's staying for her senior year. And you have 2 McDonald's All-Americans coming in for Rella Booth and guard Chastity Patterson. Both are #1 in their respective positions. And in overall rankings, Booth is #3 and Patterson is #4 in the nation. So we have great talent coming on this team for next year. I think they can be okay.
And speaking of Patterson, she had 3,000 points in her whole career at North Shore in Houston. So she's another Brooke McCarty prototype. So it'll be interesting to see how they put the 2 of them together, and if they, just have one on the court at each time and just let them go score. So,
sure. Yeah.
Now jumping over to the men's side, we did mention at the beginning of the show there is a freshman entering the draft. That is freshman big man Jarrett Allen. Now he is not signing an agent right now, so he can come back if he decides to after the NBA draft combine. So Nick, what type of impact is that going to have on Allen, or on the Horns, if he does stay and if he does not stay?
I think it would be an enormous letdown if he did leave. I think throughout this past season there were so many disappointments, so many letdowns, that I think the only thing that the Texas fans had to put, hang their hat on was Jarrett Allen and him blossoming into a really key cog part of this offense and defense. The entire team really was just revolving around Jarrett Allen by the end of the season. So I think it's very important to retain him. But if they don't, it's not the end of the world. They are getting Matt Coleman from recruiting, who's a 5-star guard, correct?
Yes.
And you have good pieces on this offense that you can work around. Andrew Jones, Kerwin Roach. So it's not the end of the world. But you did see that this team really did work well as Jarrett Allen improved over the season.
And you also saw Shaq Clare, senior, who's going to be gone next year. He was a big part of them improving as well. But I do like the pieces that they're bringing in.
Shaq Clare leaving, of course, that opens up a spot where now you're talking you need as much post help as you can get, right? So Jarrett Allen leaving would be an even worse loss than it would be without Shaq Clare leaving. Yeah.
And I think with Matt Coleman coming in, the other guards can play their real spot off the ball.
Yep, sure. Shaka Smart's his entire plan is not dead yet, but I think Jarrett Allen leaving would put a stain on that success that he's had.
Definitely. Nick, thank you for joining me tonight. Great basketball talk. Now when we come back, Nick Kuholtz will join me to discuss what else went on around the 40 acres this past week. Stay tuned. Welcome back to College Press Box. Nick Kuholtz now joins me. Nick, what a heartbreaking way to end the season for the Lady Longhorns.
I thought they had it, Tyler. I thought they had it.
I did too.
They're up at the half. They played well to start, but we'll see if they can get over the hump next season. Good performance from Karen Aston's team throughout the tournament until second half of that game, but we'll see if they can do that next year.
Yeah, definitely a heartbreaking way. Now we'll shoot to some other sports around the 40 acres. We'll begin with men's tennis. The UT men's tennis team hosted UT Arlington this past weekend at the Caswell Tennis Center. The Longhorns swept the Mavericks 7-0. The doubles team, consisting of Leonardo Tellez and George Goldoff, won their match 6-1. Texas will begin conference play on Friday at Oklahoma.
The Texas women's tennis team was also in action this past weekend, and after a 4-2 loss on Friday to the Texas Tech Red Raiders, the Horns got back to their winning ways with the sweep of the TCU Horned Frogs on Sunday. Texas won all 5 matches that were completed, picking up a huge victory over their conference foe. The Burn Orange now head to Morgantown to clash with the West Virginia Mountaineers on Friday.
In men's golf, junior Doug Gim shot a 6-under 65 in the third round of the Valspar Collegiate at the Floridian Golf Course this past Tuesday. Doug Gim finished 4th individually, while the team also tied for 4th with a team score of 12 over par. They will hit the course again this upcoming weekend in College Station at the Aggie Invitational.
On Saturday afternoon, the 8th-ranked Texas women's rowing team kicked off their 2017 campaign at the Longhorn Invite on Walter E. Long Lake. The Horns won 4 of their 5 A finals races, including Varsity 8, Second Varsity 8, and Varsity 4, the 3 contests that will decide the national champion later this spring in New Jersey. Texas is back in action this weekend, where they will head out west to California for the San Diego Crew Classic at Mission Bay.
Both the men's and women's track and field teams were in action at the Victor Lopez Classic in Houston this past weekend. On the men's side, redshirt junior Spencer Dunkerley Ofer won the 110-meter hurdles with a time of 13.86. Now Carlton Umnunu won the 200-meter dash in a time of 21.05, while his teammates also finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th behind him. On the women's side, Elena Bruckner won the shot put and the discus. In the shot put, she won with a throw of 54 feet, 4 1/4 inch, which is 4th in school history, and it's also currently the 5th best throw in the country this year. Both teams will participate at the Texas Relays this upcoming weekend.
This past weekend, history was made once more by Coach Eddie Reese and the Texas men's swimming and diving team as the Longhorns won the national championship for the 3rd straight season. The championship was number 13 in program history, and with the victory, Texas passed the Michigan Wolverines for the most national championships in all of college swimming, led by Clark Smith, Will Lacone, Jack Conger, Townley Haas, Joseph Schooling, and many others. The Horns won the meet by 193 points. Coach Eddie Reese was selected as the CSCAA Coach of the Year once again, and with his 13th national title, Reese has now won the NCAA championship in 1/3 of his 39 seasons as head of the program. And now we'll hear from Coach Eddie Reese on how his team exceeded expectations.
One, I didn't believe we were going to go as fast as we went. And I am a total optimistic dreamer. I dream times that nobody else gets in their mind. And these guys surpassed all of that. It was, as I told them at the end of the meet, there's never been a meet this fast in the history of the sport.
After a midweek victory over McNeese State 4-0 on Wednesday, Texas softball would get swept in their first Big 12 series of the season at Oklahoma State. After losing pitchers duels 1-0 and 2-1 with outstanding pitching performances from Tierra Davis on Friday and Erica Wright on Saturday, Sunday would be a run-scoring fest with Texas losing a back-and-forth extra inning battle 10-9. The Horns will now travel to San Antonio on Wednesday to face UTSA and then welcome U of H in town for a doubleheader on Sunday.
It was a very busy week for Coach David Pierce and the Texas baseball team, playing 5 times in just the 6-day span. After blowing a 3-run ninth-inning lead and falling to the Texas State Bobcats 11-10 on Tuesday, the Longhorns came back from 7 runs down to defeat UT Rio Grande Valley on Wednesday. Friday through Sunday, Texas had their second Big 12 Conference Series of the year as they clashed with the Kansas State Wildcats. It was another 3-game sweep at the Dish, but this time Texas was on the winning side of things. After shutting out K-State in their first 2 games, Cody Clemens' solo shot in the bottom of the 7th propelled the Burnt Orange to a 6-5 victory Sunday afternoon, completing the sweep of the Wildcats. Texas is now 17-10 on the season.
Now we'll head out to the Dish for highlights from Friday and Sunday's games. And we'll begin Friday. Texas looking to bounce back after being swept by Texas Tech to begin conference play. And we'll begin the first inning. Nolan King had a dominant performance all game. Began with this ground out from Jake Woodkey to second baseman Brett Boswell. Texas would get a run in the 3rd inning. Now in the 4th inning to end the inning, King would strike out DH Jake Scudder. That'd be a second strikeout of the game, of his 5 strikeouts on the game. Now bottom of the 4th, Travis Jones is going to single up the middle to center field. Austin Todd's going to come around from second base to score. That's going to give Texas a 2-0 lead. We'll jump to later in the inning. Casey Clemens will be up to bat with runners on base. Normally he's been doing a lot of damage in this instance, but this time he's grounding out into a double play. That would end the threat. Texas would go on to win 2-0. That'd be a complete game shutout by Nolan Kingham. Now we'll head to Sunday's game. Blair Henley begins on the mound in the 4th inning. Designated hitter Trent McMaster's going to head a deep fly ball left, and Tate Shaw's going to rob him a home run. That would have given K-State an early 2-0 lead, and in fact, Texas would bounce back, score 2 of their own in the bottom half of the inning. Now in the 5th, Kansas State with runners on base. Chase Sugar's going to try to pick off to first. Jake Woodkey's going to score from 3rd. That's going to tie the game 2-2. Now that at bat would have Will Brennan up, and he's going to single to left field, and Cameron Thompson's going to score from 3rd. Now bottom of the 7th, tied at 5. Cody Clemens is going to hit a deep fly ball to left field. Left fielder's going to go back on the ball. He's going to run out of space. That's going to be a home run. That would give Texas a 6-5 lead. That would be the final score of the game. Texas would go on to sweep the Wildcats. That would be their first sweep since 2015 against the Kansas State Wildcats. Now, Jonathan Polasic joins us to talk some baseball. Jonathan, how's it going?
It's going great. Tyler, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, Texas was very up and down during the week, like Nick had mentioned earlier, with a loss against Texas State before coming back to win against UT Rio Grande Valley. What does Texas have to do to maintain their consistency as they move into Big 12 play?
Well, Tyler, the pitchers need to be on the top of their game from the outset, while the bullpen needs to be able to shut down late-inning rallies. Against Texas State, the Longhorns were up 3 runs in the 9th inning, but Kyle Johnston was unable to slam the door, which allowed the Bobcats to win the game in extra innings. But against UT Rio Grande Valley, it was the starting pitchers that had a problem. Connor Mays was unable to escape the 1st inning and allowed the Vaqueros to put up 7 runs to chase Mays. But the Texas bullpen, led by John Malman, was able to shut down the Bobcats the rest of the way, which allowed the Texas offense to creep back into the game and eventually get the win. So whether it's the starting pitching or the bullpen, the entire pitching staff needs to be more consistent for Texas to be able to compete in Big 12 play.
Yeah, pitching has been a big problem. But, yeah, I definitely think the bullpen could be a little bit better.
Jonathan, Texas's win over Kansas State this weekend was the Longhorns' first Big 12 Series win on the young season. It was their first Big 12 Series sweep in 2 years. What did the Horns do well this weekend against the Wildcats?
Well, Nick, when you think of Texas baseball, you think of strong pitching and strong defense. And while their pitching was shaky during the middle of the week, against Kansas State, they were flat-out dominant. I mean, Nolan Kingham, he pitched a complete game shutouts, scattering 4 hits and had 5 strikeouts, going the distance. He was awarded Big 12 Pitcher of the Week for his efforts. And on Saturday, Morgan Cooper was just as effective, if not more so. He went 8 innings with 2 hits, 11 strikeouts, which was a career high, and basically allowed Texas, with their offense not necessarily getting the job done this weekend, to score just enough to beat the Wildcats.
Yeah, they did enough to do it. So, Jonathan, thank you for joining us to talk some baseball. Now, when we come back, Eric Goodman and Emily Stone will take you off the 40 acres. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to College Press Box. I'm Emily Stone alongside Eric Goodman, and we're here to talk about what's happening off the 40 acres. And Eric, we've got to start with March Madness.
We do. It's that time of year, and March Madness finally lived up to its name. We had 3 games. We're going to show you just a second of why it has that moniker. Absolute craziness. Let's show you what we mean. Wisconsin and Florida in the Sweet 16. Unexpected matchup. This was a game of 2 shots. First up, time winding down. That is Zach Showalter. Huge shot to force overtime for the Wisconsin Badgers. They weren't even supposed to be this far, and they're forcing overtime to get to the Elite Eight. Discount double check. Aaron Rodgers is in the building. He's a Wisconsin guy. But then it's Chris Chiozza, the same shot, and it goes for Florida. And the only difference between the 2 shots, that puts Florida ahead as time expired. They're moving on into a unexpected, to say the least, Elite Eight matchup between Florida and their SEC rival South Carolina. And that's the game that we're going to pull up right now because Sendarius Thornwell was a monster here. You see him in the paint, 26-7 on the day for him. Breaks the tie, and now South Carolina up 5. But Kayvon Allen for the Gators, he's going to keep them in the game. That'll make it a 1 basket, count it with the foul. But then you see that South Carolina defense has gotten him this far into Dwayne Notice, and that's the exclamation point for the Gamecocks. They're in the Final Four, and which one of these legendary coaches will make it to? We go in the 4th quarter of University of Kentucky versus University of North Carolina. Huge programs. Carolina up 3, and you know what, Joe Barry? Let's make that up 5 going late into this ball game as you go under 2 minutes. But this is all Malik Monk from here out with the man in his face, bucket, pulls Kentucky within a point, and then UNC leaves the door open with a missed free throw, and watch this sequence. Kentucky down 3. Ball goes to Monk, 2-man in his face, got it. Tie game, but don't look away. UNC back down the court. And just watch Luke May creeping your shot with the ball. Ouch. That's an incredible shot, an incredible sequence to seal the deal for UNC going into the Final Four. Luke May, the hero. Let's watch it again. And think if you're a Kentucky fan, we got an example for you right now. They're out of their minds ecstatic, but then you see, just keep watching. Bam, from ecstasy to agony. And that sets up a insane Final Four we got coming up of Gonzaga, South Carolina, Oregon, and UNC. You got to say, tons of different team profiles on here. You've got Gonzaga, who people thought maybe they were the 1 seed, but maybe they were the weakest 1 seed. Well, they've gotten, all the way. South Carolina, no one saw them coming. A 7 seed from a mid-tier team in a good conference. Then you got Oregon, and people were citing injury concerns coming in for them into the tournament. They've plowed all the way through, beat Kansas in what many people thought to be the game of the tournament. Or at least Kansas was the team of the tournament, and then UNC has been upset-proof so far, and they, to me, look like the team to beat going forward.
I'm going to have to agree with that. I think the Tar Heels are going to come in, but this is March Madness, and anything can happen, even in the Final Four. But this is definitely a Final Four that Vegas did not see coming. And speaking of Vegas, the Oakland Raiders are now the Vegas Raiders. After a 31-1 vote, the NFL is heading to Sin City. Eric, what do you think? Are the Raiders' odds, in Vegas as good as your bracket odds were this past weekend?
Well, let's keep in mind the Raiders, the team name transfers, and the fans, some may transfer, a lot I'm sure won't, but the players also transfer, and those players had a really unexpectedly really good season last year, and they have a lot of returners, except for Latavius Murray at running back. There might be a hole there. We'll see how they fill that. So they're definitely going to be contenders coming in. If you're a Vegas fan, you're thrilled because now you have 2 teams coming into your city with the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, and you got to feel a little bit, frustrated if you're the owner of that team because, yikes! I mean, you were the shining child of Las Vegas coming in.
Share.
Now you have to share, and we all know how dominant the NFL is in. And we'll see if the main reason Vegas hasn't had a team so far is because. It's the gambling capital of the United States. We all know that. It's the party capital. And gambling, partying, those things don't really mix well with sports. At least they haven't in the past, especially when you consider the NFL, all in the litany of scandals and player suspensions that have come from that kind of subject. So this will be really entertaining to watch. It might be a dicey match, but it's definitely going to have fans tuning into those first
Las Vegas Raiders game, so it's still a bit strange to say.
I know. I bet some fans are super excited to, have a reason to go besides going to the Strip. But when we come back, we'll head to the 40 acres and take a look at what's to come this week in Longhorn Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Let's now take a look at what's going on this week in Longhorn Sports. Now we'll begin. Baseball is on the road at Kansas this weekend. Texas Relays begin on Wednesday. They go through the whole weekend. They are on Longhorn Network the whole week. Also softball Wednesday they're at UTSA, and then on Sunday they are home to U of H for a doubleheader. Now, even though it's not fall, Texas football is back, and with a new head man. That is Tom Herman. Mark Skoll takes a look at how spring football is practicing with the new staff.
A fresh set of coaches for Texas football means the team gets a fresh slate as well.
When it comes to fresh slate, there's a lot of challenges. So the coaches like to challenge everybody, and they're starting to bring out the competitive side of everybody. So I'm really adoring that right now.
The Texas defense is trying to make the most of the fresh slate after finishing with one of the worst defenses in the country in 2016. And it starts with the defense proving to the new staff they can be reliable.
Just that they can depend on us. I know it's like they just come from another school, but we have to show them that they can trust us. They for real, so we just gonna listen to them.
Herman's coaching staff isn't taking the spring lightly, as they are holding every single player accountable, from the highly touted recruits to the walk-ons.
It's not going to be, Malik Jefferson's not playing well, but Malik's going to stay in there. No, Malik's going to be on the bench. So whoever ends up being the toughest kid that's going to be the most physical, play in and play out, is going to line up there when we play, eventually play Maryland.
The coaches certainly have plenty of time to determine who will be playing against Maryland. But for now, it's all about fine-tuning the defense for the spring game. Mark Skoll Jr., College Press Box.
That'll do it for tonight's show. We thank you for spending your Monday night here with us. Don't forget to tune in every Monday night at 9:30 for College Press Box, and our sister show, College Crossfire, on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock, where host Reese Miller and panelists debate the latest hot topics in sports. You can follow us on Twitter at TSTV Sports and College Crossfire at College Xfire. Thanks to everyone who joined us on the show tonight, as well as everyone here in the studio and in Master Control. I'm Tyler King. Have a great night.